or still under control?
Bam.
Okay.
Just letting us go ahead and record now.
You look beautiful. Okay.
Yes, there we go. That's we go. Yes, y'all look fabulous, both of y'all.
Thank you.
Smiling faces, loving them, loving them. All right. So you are tuned in to Didymus Radio. We are the Inquiring Mind, and this platform is to have an open-hearted and open-minded discussion about real estate, health, history, entertainment, and relationships, and the many controversies and solutions that surround them. I personally believe our relationships are the foundations to our success, and a home with a good foundation provides for a sustainable building. Like our homes need foundation and structure, so do our relationships. May that be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially, or physically. I hope you leave with some foundation and or structure to help you move forward. I'm your host, Didymus, and we are the Inquiring Mind. And today I have some very special guests from Florida on with us, Nik and Adinah. Can you tell us hi?
Hey, how you doing, Tom? Say hello to your audience. It's great to be here.
Man, I'm definitely glad to have y'all on. Miss Adinah, how you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just had to get y'all on an episode because the conversation that I had with y'all the other day was just eye-opening, revealing. I learned some new things that I just wasn't aware of, and I always like to consider myself a student of life. And even though sometimes you might be that person that shares information and knowledge with other people, often in your own circle, you still like to get around other faces or names or people who can share knowledge that you just don't have. And so when you reached out and we started discussing about the podcast, and y'all already have been, doing this for a while and been relationship coaches, I believe, for over 15 years, and in a marriage for 20 years plus. And I was just like, these are the type of people that I'm looking to be around and learn from as far as when it comes to relationships. And so it's just a pleasure to have y'all on and somebody, some people to share such wealth of knowledge with us. So
Great,
thank you
for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So who is Nik and Adinah, and what brought on your inspiration to do your YouTube channel for Nik and Adinah?
Well, for our YouTube channel, it's so crazy because it came out of a challenge. The organization that we had worked with for so long as marriage coaches kind of folded, and they went in a different direction. And so we knew that we still had the knowledge and we wanted to share it on a bigger platform. And so YouTube gave us that opportunity, and we actually talked about it for like a year. And we just kept putting it off. And then finally I'm like, let's just make it happen. Let's just do it. We became marriage coaches certified in 2003. When we got married in 2000, we started immediately going to coaching. We started going to classes, trying to understand what marriage was because of our history as far as our families with divorce. Everyone in our families had been divorced, and we're both the babies of the family.
Yep.
Wow.
So it was pretty much like, go ahead, get this started so y'all can end it.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because that seems like it adds so much up to the over 60 or 70% of households born out of wedlock. Like that same ideology with the run and go elsewhere mentality. Yeah. Would you agree, Nik?
Yeah, I would. And I think, as Adinah said, we started, but, kind of at the beginning, we knew, as Adinah said, it's important for you to look at your genealogy, because if you don't know where you come from, you really don't have a clear picture of where you're going. And so one of the things that we did is that we looked at our families to see what type of things had been going on generationally. And even, directly looking at our siblings, we saw that there were challenges there when it came to relationships. And just like Adinah said, I was like, okay, either, we can go ahead and we can finish it out, or we can be the ones who did something different. And as we did it, we were like, okay, what can we do? Because what we're doing right now ain't working. We know that we want to be with each other. And I know that you love me and I love you, but we're having a hard time doing this thing. Yeah. And so as you asked, kind of your initial question was who is Nik and Adinah? Nik is an individual, and Adinah is an individual who decided to come together and be Nik and Adinah. There are some individuals who desire to still have that individuality and say, I don't want to lose myself when I get married. Well, guess what? Yeah, you kind of got to. Because if you continue to try to be the same person you were before you got married, that's going to be a problem. Yeah. So you really have to understand that oneness that comes with the two becoming one. And so what Nik and Adinah is just two people who really know that they want to spend the rest of their lives together and was trying to figure out how to do it without getting a record.
Yeah. You know, you're gonna learn. We keep it real. We are so honest.
You got to.
You know, if it's
I'm proud to say the police will never call.
Never. Never. Well, and the thing was too, when we first got married, as I was mentioning, we started with understanding. We went to the beginning. How was marriage designed? What is the purpose of marriage? And so we just started going to coaching classes. We went to a class and it was started out 8 weeks. It was called Monday Night Solutions. And so I was a youth counselor for 14 years. Mm-hmm. And so the whole psychology of it all, I just ate it up. I was like into it. I loved it. I was volunteering us for stuff. Mm-hmm. I was bugging our clinical director, who wasn't our clinical director at the time. He was just a teacher of the system that we were learning. Mm-hmm. And he goes, you know what? You have an amazing background. You guys just need to get certified. And that's basically how it happened, where we got certified. And so we started in 2001, just learning knowledge. And like I said, everything he gave me, I just read it like the same night. I would just read it. I would just devour it. And I'd be calling him the next day, like, I need another book.
and so y'all really make me think about the first question was, do you believe relationships need a solid foundation like a home? Because you mentioned in the beginning you were looking for coaching, and most people, they're not looking for coaching, counseling, criticism, or anything until it's in destruction.
In the ditch.
Y'all were looking for coaching in the beginning. So that makes me think of why I thought of that question. So I'll ask it again. Do you believe relationships need a solid foundation like a home?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, Thomas. Now, we did go looking for coaching when we realized we didn't have the answers. Yeah. So we bumped our heads a few times that first year. You know, it was a couple times where, you know, we would go at it. And when we first got married, we did go through like some premarital counseling, right? Yeah. From our pastor, but it really wasn't what we call premarital counseling. This is what I mean. When we do premarital counseling, what was that?
It wasn't breakthrough.
Yeah, you know, when we go through premarital counseling and we work with couples, our biggest thing is we try to give them tools and concepts, okay? So my thing is that, you know, it's almost like when your car is broken down, you can call a mechanic. He might be able to come in and fix the problem, but, you know, it's empowering for you to have your own tools when something happens to your car to be able to go out there and fix it. So my thing is that when we went through that premarital counseling, we didn't get any tools. So we went through and we're trying to do things, and it got to the point where we were having disagreements, and we were calling the person who did our premarital counseling, like, hey, you know, she ain't listening, he ain't listening, can you come through, and everything else. And they just got to the point like, you know what, we got to be able to figure out how to do this on our own. You know, so that's what really put us to the position like, all right, where do we need to go? So we went, you know, looking for coaching. So I definitely don't, and I think the importance of being transparent is that we don't want to be a stumbling block for anybody. So going in, you know, I wish we did have that foresight after we got married. Now, before we did try to do premarital counseling, but we didn't have that foresight initially to say, okay, now that we're married, we still need to continue on trying to expand our knowledge. Yeah. We had, you know, hit a couple bumps in the road. And then once that happened, like, you know what, we got to switch it up. And that's when we start looking for that coaching.
And we told quite a few people, because I was excited about it, you know, that we were starting marriage coaching and starting marriage enrichment. Well, why? Y'all have a really good marriage. And I'm like, yeah, but we want it to be great. We want it to be better. We want it to be even stronger. Mm-hmm. So why not start at the beginning, you know, that way? Because like we talked about, if your car goes off into the ditch, and Nik used this analogy a lot. If you're driving along and you swerve a little bit, you can bring it back. But if it actually goes into the ditch, then you need a tow truck. You need additional assistance. Need extra tools. Yes, as opposed to, hey, I just swerved and got it back in order.
Yeah, you really want to be in a position where, you know, everybody kind of has a different definition of a good marriage. some people are good marriages that you just ain't divorced. And that ain't no good
Man.
marriage, you know. You live
Yeah.
together, you know. So our thing is that we wanted to have a great marriage. So we didn't just want to, you know, live with each other and have some kids. We wanted to legitimately enjoy being married, you know. And so that's why I was like, you know what, we got to do what we need to do. We got to learn. And, you know, you really have to be a lifelong learner in all things. You know, we try to learn more about our jobs, you know, more about, you know, particular things that we have an interest in, but we also need to do that when it comes to relationships, you know, and just really go and get that, that foundation where you can go ahead and build on it. Because, you know, if you have a bad foundation, you know, it's going to crack, you know, so you really have to have it. And that's why when you see some of these old colonial houses, these houses out built in like the 1800s, early 1900s, that's because that foundation is good. When you hear people like, it got good bones. The reason it got good bones is because it got that foundation, and that structure was able to be secure and stable based upon that foundation.
I like that. And that's one of the main reasons I like that question, because I work in real estate, I thought the comparison to having a foundation and a structure to your relationship was almost like a model for me. And primarily because I had seen that I wasn't working on building a solid foundation in my relationships. I was working too much on being an individual. And so when I wanted to be an item, I wasn't using the tools to be an item. I was still using the tools to be an individual. So it didn't even make sense to the person. And you kind of made me realize that, you know, along with a few other people who counsel me through this kind of thing. And I'm big like on being a student of life. Like, and so it's been huge to build a foundation for me that, yeah, you might have some cracks, you might have some bruises, but if you know how to fill in the gaps, you know how to pour cement in that foundation and make it solid again with the right tools, it can be done. But if there's always a reason not to put in the repair work, then that's been one of the things that's made me afraid of the relationship with this day and age. I know what my mother and my grandpa and stuff taught me, and people, when we see the rarity like yourselves, but you get afraid when you don't have a multiplicity of people like yourselves around you. It almost seems like, is this the right thing for me? Because I keep getting something different than they're getting. But you also don't want to lose hope. And so that's why I like the idea of having a solid foundation and willing to repair your foundation if you got the willpower. Because a lot of people are just, I'll kind of go into the other question. A lot of people want the microwave relationship that's already came ready-made, packaged up. They have the house, they have the car, they have the happiness, but they don't deal with any of the pain that went in to obtain any of those things. And if they did, one of them went through it and not the other. And so it's not actually manifesting something that's to stay together, but just to enjoy temporarily, you know? And so I see instant gratification being highlighted out here as if it's the reward. And it frightens me. And so that's why I like having someone that's actually a couple that's working through things and realize there was repair work on both of our ends. And repair work doesn't make either one of us wrong. It just makes us realize that, hey, if we want better for ourselves and each other, we just have to do some repair work. So before I ramble, I'll say, and I already feel like y'all gave me one of these answers. Can you name 3 things that build a solid foundation for relationships? And I feel like y'all named coaching multiple times, but you tell me your 3 things. But I like what answers I'm ready to hear from y'all.
Yeah, you know, definitely will give you the 3 things, but if I could piggyback on one thing that you said,
Sure.
And the thing is that we don't want individuals to feel like, okay, I've been in this relationship for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and I've come to the realization that our foundation was not strong. But guess what? You can fix a cracked foundation. Now, granted, it's a little hard. It's a little bit more difficult than it is when you was initially building that house, but you can go ahead and square that away. Just like you was talking about repair work. You can get a house, and since I know a lot of your audience, you know, they're going to be in real estate. They understand when you have a house, you know what I'm saying, the value could be 50 grand. But once you go in there, you repair it and make that rehab, and work on it, you come back out there, praise that at a 125, 150.
Yeah.
Right. So not to say that the rehab is going to be easy, but it's worth it. So
It's
you
worth
go in
it.
there,
You see the
grind.
value.
Yeah, you know, you go in there, you put the elbow grease in, do what you got to do, then you'll be able to reap the benefits of putting in that work. So
I like that. I like that.
Right. I'm sorry. So 3 things. You want to go ahead and start the 3 things?
Yeah, well, we've looked at that, and that has been a question we've gotten quite frequently lately. But what we look at is, number one, values. Are your values aligned? And what are your values individually and as a couple? Where do we need to make some changes or corrections, or where do we need to strengthen our values? So I think number one is values. Next one is loyalty. And that's so important as far as how loyal is this person? Are we here together? Are we in it for the long haul? Because that's one thing that can really derail a marriage. And then truth and honesty. You know, let's talk about honesty and how are we going to communicate with each other? Are we going to be honest in our communication, or are we not going to always communicate as honest as we need to? So that's very important, the truth and honesty as far as communication.
That's like a twin for y'all. It sounds like it's not, you can't have one without the other.
No.
Yeah, you
like
really have to. And you know, one of the things that I really focus on, and as being a man, I think this is a little bit more difficult for us, and that's vulnerability. I think that you know, ladies are almost by default very willing to be vulnerable and open. But I think as men, sometimes we're not very vulnerable about the situation that we're going through. So it's okay for us to say, you know what, honey, this is something that happened, or this is a fear that I may have. Because sometimes people say, you know what, men aren't supposed to be afraid. Well, guess what? You know what, if you're real about it, you have certain fears. You know what, I got fears because guess what, they laying people off at the job. They're doing this, they're doing that. Or, I went and took some tests at the doctor and he said, and they look a little weird. Go back, be willing to be vulnerable. And the thing about,
what, Nick?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but let's tell the men what is vulnerability. Because you and I, we study vulnerability. We embrace vulnerability. We experience vulnerability. But what is vulnerability to the men that just feel it and don't know what it is and avoid it?
Okay. Well, one of the things I would say, and that's a great question, as far as when it comes to vulnerability, one thing you really want to be mindful of is that it is the willingness to be open with your thoughts and your emotions. I know sometimes, we might share what we think, but we don't share what we feel. So it's really important for you to be willing to do that, because what happens is that it's amazing. I talk with a lot of men, and unfortunately we get programmed as kids to go ahead and kind of bottle in that vulnerability. We have a young lady. If a young lady is playing and she say falls and scrapes her knee, she scrapes her knee, they kiss the boo-boo, everything is okay. But when it comes to little boys, they scrape and hurt their knee, we're told to walk it off. So originally we're always taught to suppress those emotions and not to show, anything that hurts us. So what we really want to understand is that it's okay to do that. So when we are willing to be vulnerable to our spouses, it allows them to basically speak to our hurts, speak to our heart, and allows us to be able to bond at a deeper level with them. Because I know it's been times, and my wife will tell you, if I have a rough day, if I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, there's been times I have put my head in her lap and not said a word. And she'll sit there and she used to rub her fingers through my hair, but I don't have the hair no more. But she will literally sit there and she'll rub my head, and she just knows what's going on. Now, granted, if I feel like I need to speak to her and share what's going on in my heart and in my head, that's fine. And she's open to that. But also, once we think about vulnerability, we have to make sure that it's a safe place. Why a safe space?
Man,
I can't be vulnerable to you if I got concerns that you're going to slap me back in the face with it.
Wow.
If I tell you that I'm scared that, they're going to lay people off at a job, and I do something, all of a sudden you're like, well, hey, you're going to get laid off. No, I've shared something with you, what I'm saying? Because what happened is when I open up my heart to you and you hurt me, guess what? I started closing it back off, and what happened is that all it takes is like that one instance of somebody, betraying that vulnerability, and it's hard to get it back. So
why do you think it's easy for us to tuck it away?
As men or just in general?
I would say in general, because I'm seeing more 20s and 30s reflecting the 50s and 60s male ego. There might be a whole nother discussion.
I think because, oh no, I understand what you're saying. I think it's just a persona that people put out there. That, you know, there's a certain level of weakness that comes with that vulnerability. But I let you know this much. People who get to the point where they've been married for 25, 35, 45 years, is certain commonalities that's around that. You know, I was listening to a podcast recently, and it's like, all right, 10 traits of millionaires. You know, so they'll go through and there's certain consistent things that are in people who have that longevity, you know. And so what happens is that you see that, you know, they're one of the biggest things they do is that, you know, they're willing to be open and honest and transparent, you know, and people now want to say, you know what, I ain't got time for that. I'll move on to the next one. You know, I ain't got time to be sitting here trying to baby you and all that. It ain't about babying nobody. It's about ministering to someone's needs, trying to, you know, deal with the hurt that they've had, whether it's in that relationship or baggage that they might be bringing from childhood or another relationship. So it's really that willingness to be open and transparent and not be concerned about what anybody else got to say about it. Because you can talk about me all you want to. I don't care. But as long as me and mine are good in my house, I'm good. You know.
I want to jump to Adinah really quick, but I want you to answer this question first, Nick. Okay. How do we create a safer space for women to be vulnerable in as men?
Okay. I'll share an example that I had to deal with earlier in our relationship. There would be certain things that Adinah would do that I did not understand or did not really agree with, right? But I had to come to a realization that it did not matter if I didn't feel that way, as long as I understood whatever it was made her feel a certain way. Okay. So my thing is that
love and respect.
That love and respect. So when she comes to me and she says something, I need to be open to it. And like, for instance, feelings is what you hear a lot of times in a relationship, right? Feelings are not necessarily right or wrong.
Right.
The way you feel at a particular point is the way you feel. I can't say you feel like you ain't loved. You can't feel that way. Well, they can't, you know, and that's just really it, you know? So I'm like, okay, but the thing is, as someone shares their feelings with you, especially if it's something like, I don't feel love, say, okay, well, I understand, but what can I do to make you feel loved? Or if you don't feel secure in our relationship, okay, what can I do to help you feel secure in our relationship? So it's really to be open and not necessarily get kind of caught up in that situation where you're shooting down everything that they come to you. Because sometimes, you know, as a man, you don't want to hear that you're doing something that is, you know, hurting your spouse, or, you know, even vice versa. You don't want to hear that. So sometimes, you know, it's tough for us to hear it, but we have to be willing to have those difficult conversations and have that, you know, that safe space for them to come and say, hey, you know what, when this happened or when you did this, it made me feel that way, and just be willing to work through it.
Real quick, we had a situation where we were given a seminar, a class, and we had a couple that had been married for 50 years. And they were in their 80s, and they might have been in their late 70s. But he goes, what do you do if your wife asks you every day if you lock the door? And I said, well, she's fearing. She has a sense of lacking security. You don't know if someone broke into her home when she was a child or whatever the case may be, but that's a security issue. So to take your power back, what you need to do is when you come upstairs, because you know she's going to ask, when you come upstairs, say, I made sure I locked the door. That way you're taking your power, but you're also meeting her need for security.
Wow.
And he goes, man, I wish you would have told me that 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, at that point, I was really young. I was like, sir, I was a toddler, okay?
But it seems like something so small, Adinah, but really it's a small thing that has a big impact on the person's psychology, right?
There you go. Absolutely. Because she was fearing, she had a sense of insecurity. It had nothing to do with him or his ineptness. I think a lot of times we feel like you're challenging me. You're saying I don't keep this house safe, or I'm not locking the door, or whatever the case may be. But that's why we have to understand our history, because it could be something that happened as a child to her.
Yeah, I like that. You make me think about this next question, and it kind of goes with the whole microwave relationships, but do people now, do they just want the relationship ready-made without going to coaching or counseling or therapy? And why? Yeah. Or why not?
I want you to just think about this, and I want your audience to think about this, your listeners. You tell me the last time you had something delicious out of the microwave. Not edible, just delicious.
You know what? I usually don't even keep a microwave. I just happen to be in the presence of one right now.
Yeah.
But never. I'm gonna say never.
Yeah, and I just say
eatable.
Yeah.
Not even edible, it's eatable.
Yeah, it's eatable. Exactly. And this is the thing I want you to also think about. When is the last time you had something out of slow cooker that wasn't good?
I can't say I complained out the slow cooker.
Yeah, because
yes.
everything
Let it
gets
marinate.
Yeah,
you let it take its time.
Exactly.
You let all the flavors. You let it get nice and soft. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's what we have to think about. And
you make me hungry right now.
Hey, we are recording on Sunday.
And I was like thinking of pulled pork and
that's it.
Meat and stew and vegetables.
All types of deliciousness. So
that's a man with a wife that knows how to cook.
Yeah, there you go.
We down there in Florida, I'll be like, so y'all, will you and Nick be cooking this?
Right.
Yeah, if it's Sunday, more than likely, yes, that will be going on. So, but as far as like kind of that instant gratification you speak to, I just think that, I think as a society, I won't say that I'm not included in that, because at certain times it's like, okay, now we kind of have this Amazon mentality where, we want everything primed. If you go to something and you order and they be like 7 days, like 7 days.
Amazon got 2-day shipping.
Yeah, So the thing is that we kind of want everything, or we kind of want that same, when we get married or leave a house, we want the same kind of house from where we left as a child. Yeah. You left, a house with 4 bedrooms, 2 baths and a 3-car garage. Do you think you're supposed to just move out and move into that?
Yeah.
The thing is that you may have not been around or can't remember when mama and daddy did have that efficiency. Then they moved up to that 2-bedroom, 1 bath. Then they moved up to that 3-2. Then they finally get that 3-car garage.
They had a process.
It's a process, and people don't like to hear that, but it's just true. I mean, anything worthwhile, you have to work on it. It's like expecting to go to the gym one time and coming out with a 6-pack. That just ain't gonna be the case. You got to put in that work.
Gym mirror do fool you a lot, though. You get back home to your mirror and you realize, this ain't the same as the gym mirror.
They got one of the funhouse mirrors in the gym. That's what you're saying. They get a little skinny.
Well, I need to go see that mirror right now.
How much influence? Let me ask this right. I brought up relationships during the 50s and 60s, but let's just take even a little further back, the 20s and 30s, before women's rights and things of that nature, and why the commitment might have been a little stronger then in comparison to this social media age with the plethora of options. How much of an influence do you feel social media has on people's psychology on valuing each other? I hope I answered that right.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it has a lot of influence on it. When we talk about the marriages of the past, it was more of financial stability, because a lot of times, as you said, the women didn't have rights. So therefore, they weren't bringing in their own money. They weren't educated as well. So oftentimes that having that spouse was that stability and that financial stability. Now in this day and age, we see people on the internet that look good and they look like they have it all together, but do they really? How is their relationship? How are they connected on a deeper level? And also you have women who oftentimes have the means to take care of themselves. So it's more like, I don't need you for anything. I just want you here. I want you around. And that gets very difficult because oftentimes they can't communicate that effectively, whereas it looks very haughty and it looks very uppity, but that's where you have to break it down and have a real conversation with your spouse. Yeah, with the vulnerability with your spouse, and explain to them, I love, there are so many things that we can have value added toward. However, if it's the financial, that's not it, so it's so important to have those communications around that.
So almost learning, it sounds like almost learning to now value one another in a different way now that women have the right to do everything we're doing. It doesn't make them any more of a man or any less than a woman, but it's now us as gentlemen finding another way to value women, and possibly women also finding another way to value men other than financially.
Yeah, and value themselves as well. Know what you bring to the table. Know where your weaknesses and your strengths are. That way you can, iron sharpens iron. That way you can support
Absolutely.
each other. I mean, I'm not strong in all the areas, and Nik isn't either, but we have gotten to the place where we know our strength. Yeah, we know our strengths and we know our weaknesses, and we know what works for us. So therefore we'll allow you to handle your strength. But the thing is too, I think a lot of couples do this, and our family knows this. They've said this for years. If that's a Nik question, I'm going to let Nik handle it. I'm not going to start dabbling in it and involving myself, because that's his territory, and vice versa. He respects me enough to handle and take care of what we have agreed that is my responsibilities.
I like that. Like that.
I think with social media and things like that, it's amazing. You go through and you look at somebody's Instagram and you would think that they don't have no problems in their life. You know what I'm saying? Because,
it's shine every day.
Exactly. It ain't never no rain.
Even when it's cloudy, just
yeah.
the sun and the too.
Yeah. Vacation every day.
And I think that just seeing the good times, people think that they're the only ones who's dealing with bad times in their relationships. So they'll start to feel like, okay, am I the only one that's hurting? Am I the only one who having disagreements with my spouse? And so they start to feel as though that they're on the island. And then sometimes you're like, you know what? Maybe I just, maybe this ain't it, And that's why I even went back to the beginning when I was talking about, the importance of transparency and not want to be, a stumbling block to anybody. I was like, we had issues in the beginning. Yeah. But the great part about it is that if you have commitment, and you're like, you know what, I want to work this out with this person, it'll work out. And we tell couples all the time, we've never seen anybody get a divorce who didn't stop trying. Because when you stop trying, like, oh, it's time. But as long as you keep trying to figure something out, I'm like, okay, well, this ain't work. Let's try this. All right, try this. If you just keep at it, I promise you will hit something and it will resonate with both of y'all. And you'll be like, you know what? We in our stride now. You know what I'm saying? We just keep going this way, keep pushing, and we'll make this thing the relationship we want to have.
No, I like that because when you look at it, you never seen anyone get a divorce and stop trying. That takes me back to the foundation. Like when I realized in my relationships, they're consistently falling apart in one area, it was because I was consistently avoiding multiple areas to work on my foundation. Right. And it goes, I never heard actually anyone tell me, Nik, but it goes to me trying to maintain my individualism in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Not saying that I'm not a person in my relationship, but mm-hmm. I didn't know how to distinguish my own identity in a relationship because I've really just barely started seeing healthy relationships in the last few years mm-hmm. of my life. Yeah. And so healthy relationships are fresh and mysterious, while mm-hmm. dramatic, toxic relationships are more like, yeah, that's what really goes on. And so for me, it's even a transformation of my own psychology to start mm-hmm. seeing like, hey, like, you're in a relationship, dude. You just come from a broken home, dude. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You want a relationship. You just aren't comprehending that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But when you start breaking down as a man and you lose something good that you had, and you realize it was good, and you realize that you did some good things and bad things, and they did some good things and bad things, mm-hmm. but you realize that so much of it had to do with me not building a solid foundation for mm-hmm. my partner to feel protected in. Mm-hmm. I got a good lesson the other day from someone who just was like, you didn't understand what protection was. I'm thinking protection is I'll go fight somebody or slap somebody, shoot somebody for something. Uh-huh. But she was like, you didn't create a sense of protection when it came to an argument. Mm-hmm. And create a sense of protection when it came to disagreements or acknowledging just something different that she felt, but I thought I was logically right. And so mm-hmm. me not creating that protection led to just a foundation of insecurities. I would say on her part in the relationship, but now on my part out of them, because I am thinking like, oh my God, I thought I'd been building a good foundation. Then you realize, boy, you don't even know what a foundation is, do you? You've been building your relationships on the beach.
Yeah. Yeah. On low tide.
Yeah. You've been building them on good times and not really working on the foundation of the difficult times that'll sustain your relationship.
That's it.
You know?
Yeah.
So
It's
I
hard.
like,
It's hard to look in the mirror and realize that you did something wrong and to call it out. It's real easy to tell somebody what they're doing. But
yeah.
do you really look in the mirror like, man, you know what? I missed a step on that.
Right.
You know, and that's really important. And I think that's one of the things when we originally started going to coaching is that I feel like I was telling Adinah some things and she was not receptive to it. So when we originally went to coaching, I was like, well, yeah, we'll go. So maybe they might say the same thing to you that I've been trying to say and you'll believe it now. But when I went there, I realized that there were some things that I was actually could have been doing better as well. And so that was that really convicted me in what I needed to try to be doing.
Exactly. You know, and for me, I never saw any marriages when I was growing up. Nick's parents have been married over 50 years now. And so he grew up in a two-family household, and I did a two-parent household. It's like, thank you.
Two families is a different show.
It's a poly family now.
Yeah.
He got two mamas and two dads. No.
Yeah.
He grew up with two-parent household, and I didn't. For me, that was right up there with unicorns and mermaids. It just wasn't real. It did not happen. And so I didn't see that foundation. I didn't see those things. I didn't see families struggling to work things out and to make it work. So it took some time. And that's why I needed to build a foundation to understand what marriage was about and how marriage is designed. I just had to go back to the beginning and why. Why were so many people fighting for marriages, and why was it so difficult for individuals to stay in a marriage?
And it makes me think about, I always go back to the mindset and having an impoverished mindset. So how can people who have an impoverished mindset, who want healthy relationships, what is a good first step they can take to begin curing themselves or treating themselves? And I guess we'll say treating yourselves more better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the first things is just, when you go to like AAA, not AAA, that's when your car break down. When you go to Alcoholics Anonymous or anything like that, that's AA. One of the first things they make you do.
You had AAA before that.
Yeah, AAA. It's almost like one of the first things they make you say, hey, my name is Nick and I'm alcoholic. Yeah. So one of the things you have to do is come to a realization, say, you know what, I'm in this relationship, but it doesn't feel good. And now that I realize that it does not feel good, what can I do to try to make this feel good? Not saying divorce, like what can we do? Take ownership of this to try to make it better. And then once you do that, okay, well, I've come to realization now I need to figure out who can help us do this. And you don't have to go, if you don't have money, it's all right. It's YouTube videos out there. It's books. If you can't afford a book, go check one out at the library.
Yeah.
There is not a reason why if you thirst for that knowledge that you can't get it. And also to try to make sure that you at least somewhere have some type of relationships that you can model. Now, granted, you may not have anybody in your immediate circle where you like, that relationship kind of look like mine. That one kind of look like mine. So I don't really want to talk to them, but go and try to find somebody somewhere, to model and to have a relationship, and if nothing else, go and just reach out to somebody if you don't see it. I mean, literally, just have somebody, it's interesting when it comes to our business, we'll reach out to people because we want to network. Like, oh, you know what? I know that they just got this contract to build this this development over here. I'm gonna reach out to them, but we don't want to do it like when it comes to relationships. Right. Just reach out, like, hey, you know what? Y'all seem pretty happy, or like I done seen y'all somewhere. Or I saw y'all pictures online, and y'all look like just something. You got to take some type of steps to try to build a type of relationship to have those type of people around you.
And if that ain't it, be ready to run.
Be ready to run, you said?
Yes, be ready to run. We've had couples And we thought because they had been married for a really long time and they're like, they had no training. And they said, well, we've been married for 12 years. We know what we're doing. No, just like on your job, we get training constantly on the job. Why not in life? Why not in marriage? Why not in families? Why not because
Continued
of the social? Yeah, get an education. Why not because of social media? Now you have to know how to navigate your relationship with social media and how to keep that, maintain that respect and that trust and that loyalty within social media.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Let me go into our quote of the day. And our quote of the day is from Jean Shinoda Bolen. And she says, to know how to choose a path with heart is to learn how to follow intuitive feeling. Logic can tell you superficially where a path might lead to, but it cannot judge whether your heart will be in it. What does that say to you, Adinah?
For me, that says, it says choose the path with heart, but I also think you have to have a discerning spirit. You have to understand who you are, and you have to have a connection with yourself and a higher power in many cases. And if people don't believe in a higher power, then that's fine. Have a connection with yourself, have a connection with the earth, the grass, the roots, or, whoever you have a power with. But
some grounding.
Get some grounding, get that understanding, get that, oftentimes in all that, when you're gaining something, I'm saying the Bible verse wrong, get understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So just get an understanding toward what it is you're going into, get some research, get some, get a feeling of what's happening with yourself and if that's going to be the right decision for you.
Yeah.
What about you, Nick?
As I hear you say, read that quote, I think of individuals who go to college for a particular job, then they graduate and they start doing like, man, I don't like it. And the reason why I say that is that logically it might make sense. Like, you know what, I could be a structural engineer and I can make all this money, I can do it. And you go there, you do all this training and it logically makes sense, but you get there and you start that job like, man, my heart just went in it. Yeah. So the important thing is that no matter at the end of the day, the heart will override logic, if it makes sense. And this is why I say that in your relationship, some people might hear, it doesn't make sense to want to basically look out for someone else more than yourself when you're in a relationship. Logically, it might not make sense, but the heart, it makes perfect sense because you love that person. You want to make sure that, their needs are met and that they feel loved. So, we really have to understand that, the heart is the driving force behind, our emotions. And so once we make sure that our heart is intact and it is good, everything else will kind of follow suit. And we have to make sure that, when we do that, that our heart, you don't want to live with regret. And that's it. And far too often people go through relationships and they get to the other side of it and they look back like, man, I wish I would have done this. Because logically they may have been in that relationship, dealing with it, 1 + 1 is 2. But when your relationship is not about logic, it's about the heart. You really want to make sure that you're focusing on that because it's a matter of the heart when you're in a relationship.
I like that. I love that. I love that. A matter of the heart. You know what? A lot of times when we're a little younger, and sometimes it doesn't even have to do with age, but it could do with a lack of maturity or lack of knowledge. But because the information or knowledge is just not there, you tend to do pitfall after pitfall after pitfall. And so in this segment, it is, what would you tell your 18-year-old self? And this is just where y'all will tell us, just in, maybe a couple minutes or so, like what you would tell your 18-year-old self, each one of you, and why what you know now would basically help transform that individual's entire situation.
Other than telling my 18-year-old self to buy Apple stock. Yes. Other than that, man, I tell people, and this is just kind of a segue to what I would tell my 18-year-old self. And I say this now as somebody who's getting ready to turn 45. I tell younger people this: the quickest 10 years you will ever go through is from 20 to 30. That's the quickest 10 years ever. you know, because you find yourself, you know, I'm grown now. You're trying to do stuff. You fall flat on your face sometimes. And before you know it, you look up, it's like, man, I'm 30?
Right.
You know, because you've tried to do that. So what I would tell my 18-year-old self is to, first of all, understand that, you know, time is a very precious commodity, not to waste it. You know, and that means that, hey, you know, if I'm in a relationship, I want to be completely in it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't gonna half step it. I ain't gonna, do it, ain't gonna give it 50%. I'm gonna go all the way in. I'm gonna be hard about it. And understand once I'm in a relationship that a lot of the stuff that I thought mattered didn't matter. It just really didn't matter. And all that really matters is that, you know, that you are working on building something. Because when you're 18, a lot of times, 18, 20, a lot of times you take so much time tearing things down that you're not building anything. So just focus on building and edifying. And you'll be surprised that once you get to, 30, you'll look back and see, man, I've been building all this time, or I've really been setting the foundation for something that I can continue to leverage years and years down the road. So that's kind of what I would tell myself is, hey, you know what? Don't sweat the small stuff. Really focus on what you need to do. Now, granted, I understand that there's a certain amount of exploration that you have to do as a young person because you don't know what you want sometimes or how you want to do it. So I do understand that, but really go ahead and understand that at some point we got to get focused on what we want and how precious, the time is that we have in getting where we need to get to.
Ms. Adinah.
For me, I would tell my 18-year-old self is so totally different from what Nick said. I would tell my 18-year-old self, don't be so serious. Literally, when I was 17, and I wrote about this in my book, when I was 17, I just wanted things. So I literally went to school. I went to school from 7:30 to 10:30.
We got a guess.
Yeah, we got company.
That's all right.
Okay.
You can
Sorry
go
about
in
that.
there, but please don't do that. Sorry about that. I literally went to school from 7:30 to 10:30. And part of my education was a co-op. I went to work from 11:30 to 3:30. Then when I got off from that job, I would go to a different job from 6 to 12. And that was my entire 12th grade year. So I just was so focused. I had so many things that I wanted. So I think I would have, and I had fun too, but I just was so serious. And I just was a bull in a china shop. And I think oftentimes I would say things to people, being honest, that were not as nice. It was just so laser focused. So I think I would have backed up and not been so forward with everyone.
Can I just say one thing? It is interesting how our comments to our 18-year-old self is completely opposite of each other. I think what I realized in being where I am now is that, there are certain expectations as far as where I know if I could been there now, well, where I want to be, I could have gotten there much earlier if I was more focused at 18. But I think what Adinah's perspective is the desire to be a very self-sufficient, independent woman that's what drove her. Yeah. And now in hindsight, she's like, you know what? Maybe I didn't have to do all that, and I just think it's very different.
Yeah, because I was going to get a man that was going to take care of me, and that just was not my.
Yeah, that wasn't in the
She wasn't even into that.
No. And I would tell them,
I need something to do. Like,
yeah. and when someone would come around, honestly, when Nick and I first got together, people would look at him and look at me and was like, Adinah, don't dog him out. I heard that from so many people because honestly, if a person did not say the things that I wanted them to say, or it wasn't the way I thought it should be, I would ghost them. They would just never hear from me again. There was no conversation about it. There was no, well, you did X, Y, Z. It was like, who? Because I just didn't have time to play games.
Yeah. Well, you seem like you get to the problem and solve the problem quick instead of letting it linger on and seeing and let it play out and unfold. And a lot of, from a guy's perspective, a lot of women would prefer to see things play out. And so when men come across a woman who is pretty much like us, we want to solve the problem so we can move on to the next thing. Like, I can kind of see how it would take a choice of scaling back on your end. Like, oh man, there's actually Nick out here who pretty much match my energy on that. So I don't need to overthink over here anymore. He do enough overthinking. So let me enjoy the comfortability of this so we can both bask in both of our energies.
And that's where I am now.
I like that.
I let him handle what he, what he has agreed to handle, and he does it well. And so I don't have to be so forceful. I don't have to run everyone out of my life. So, it just works that way. It works out for us.
And with Nick, I kind of see where he was talking about with his 18-year-old self, like chasing girls and thinking I was chasing money was something at that age where I was like, what else is better than this? Yeah. And now that I'm 30, I'm wasted. When I look back and I was like, I'm 32 now, I'll be 33 in November. But when I look at my 20s and 30s, I could barely remember anything I did that was important besides when I went out of state a couple times. Mm-hmm. Other than that, I can't think of one thing that I did that I would consider important other than getting into my real estate career. But I didn't do anything like when I got my first few checks, I was in a strip club. I wasn't buying a house like I should have been. And that's why I'm learning the lesson now and starting over, because I spent money that I shouldn't have spent, or I spent money that I spent in instant gratification. And now that I'm looking at hindsight, I could have been gratified even more if I would have delayed that gratification.
Yeah, just like I said, that was a quick 10 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was a very quick 10 years. I still look back sometimes, I'm just like, what the hell happened? But I know exactly what happened. Chasing nothing with no purpose. Napoleon Hill has this book called Outwitting the Devil. And he talks about definiteness of purpose. And when I heard definiteness of purpose, I was like, I pretty much always lived my life with no purpose. And then I was like, oh, I've pretty much always never been anywhere either, or really was never going anywhere. And so ever since I got a whiff of that type of ideology, having a definiteness of purpose, that became important to me, because I started to be that bull in a china shop. But then I also had to start working on like, oh my gosh, like I can't be so delved in my purpose that I'm ruining other things. And so I found myself, because you can be so passionate about your purpose that, sometimes I like to compare myself to Ares, the Greek god, because I'm so passionate about it and emotionally inflamed by it that what else matters but it.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I was. I was so laser focused on where would I be and getting to the next level. I don't think I enjoyed, where I was at the time. I was just so focused on, okay, this ain't it, out of my way, move, because I have a job to do. I have something that I need to take care of. And he talks about it, but he got his get right pretty early, because we met when he was 21.
Yeah, she snatched me up early.
Hold on, you mean both of y'all wasn't 21?
No, I was 24.
Yeah, she had me by a couple years.
Yeah.
Like I say, you can't look at it and tell, but
I can't look at neither one of y'all and tell, honestly, man. Y'all
thank you.
Y'all cracked the black gold secret.
Trying to stay on that treadmill.
Yeah. But,
trying to stay on that treadmill.
Oh my gosh, yes, just that speaks so heavily. And so now that I'm in a place where I'm basically learning to harness my passion with my definiteness of purpose. And I feel like with both of y'all answers, that's what I'm literally doing in my life right now.
Yeah, it's like balance. It's really, that's what really it's all about. You don't want to be too consumed in one thing, because it's almost like this. I get really focused around work a lot of times, but at the same time, I understand it doesn't benefit me to be so consumed in work if the people that I'm working for, I don't have time for them. So if I'm working so much, I can't, take a day off to go do something with my wife and my kids, or if I got to constantly work till 9, 10 o'clock at night, what am I really gaining? So you really have to have that balance when you're pursuing anything.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's true. And my thing is too, I think I would have told myself it's going to work out. You don't have to be so, I guess, and so just compelled to just consumed with it. You don't have to be so consumed. It's going to work out. It's, it will work out. It will work itself out. So don't just run everybody over. It's almost like I ran everybody over just to get to my purpose and my goal, and didn't get a chance to really sit back and, I guess, enjoy.
It was important for her to get rid of all those other chumps that she was messing with.
It was not, guys. No, it's okay, whatever.
Now, I'm not saying that you was running through
The grace of God burned them out.
Running them. No.
Yeah, I'm just
Running
saying,
them. No.
you know.
Hey, I love it. I love it though. Hey, but you know what? Poseidon was the only one who was able to ride. His symbol, his animal symbol is flaming horses. So that's what he rides. He rides raging horses. They're although he's a water god, those raging horses are one and the same with him.
Yeah.
And so, that flaming horse, you might feel like you got inside of Dina. No one could ride the Passion of Miss Dina other than Nick, like no energy could match it other than Nick's energy, and vice versa. Same with you. He might have had a passion and focus that I realize sometimes a man can be so smart that you turn off a woman.
Mm-hmm.
You can be so smart and technical that you turn off a woman. But there's few women who they start hearing you talking, they be like, oh, his mind different. His mind different. So I see y'all right. That's how I see how that worked out.
The interesting part about it is people, when they meet Adinah and they kind of see her energy and the stuff that she does, they expect when they meet her husband to be someone who has the same energy and things like that. But by default, I'm not a very outgoing person. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm very laid back. I'm typically chill. And when people meet me, they're like, okay, well, I was expecting somebody to, be a little bit more high strung. But the thing is that I don't, if I can only imagine if like both of us had that same energy, it would probably be a lot of button of heads going on, but I just realized, I just kind of lay back and I understand, because guess what, some men, and it's okay, if you have a spouse or, in a relationship with somebody, everybody it's a yin and a yang a lot of times, and what she does. And I don't have to do a whole ton of, a lot of talking and stuff like that, because I understand, I've tried to understand how to meet her needs. And so certain things that she doesn't have to, ride me about or ask me about, because she understands that she's secure in that I'm going to be doing those things. And she's secure in the things that I'm not going to be doing. But that just kind of happens over time. And unfortunately, many couples step away too soon before they can get to that point.
They got the meal in the microwave and not in the oven.
Yeah, it's almost, you get vested, and over time it gets easy. Not easier. So you understand, year one, you might find yourself having a disagreement once a week. But, second year, you might find yourself having one every other week. Year three, once a month. Before you know it, be like, man, well, we get along together. But sometimes you step away so early that you don't get the opportunity to get that return on investment. You just walk away from it.
I hear that. You make me think about, when you first learn how to cook a dish or a meal, you're running it up and checking it often to make sure you got it right. Mm-hmm. But after you've almost done it enough, made enough mistakes on it, done it good a few times, you start to see over time that, it's not time to check it. It's not time to check in with it.
Yeah.
You know what? That time frame is coming. I need to check in with it to make sure it's just right.
Yeah, and when you first start making it, you're looking at the recipe card, you're measuring it out. But then after you do it for a while, you don't get that recipe card out. You don't measure it to taste. As I say, they be like, to taste. Don't nobody know what to taste is, but you're just out there, you making it work. So you get more comfortable with it.
Yeah, that's what
I'm hungry. That's the second food reference he's given.
Shoot, I'm sure I'm gonna find the kitchen right after this. After we talk about that slow roast.
Yeah, get that. Ain't nothing wrong with those.
But just a few more, I can go all day with y'all, but we have plenty more of these conversations to come. But just to ask a couple more questions, this segment is called I Could Never. And in this segment, we're going to tell us in one word, what you could never sacrifice blank in your home.
Ooh, I could never sacrifice blank.
You want me to go? Because I got it already.
Adinah, please.
Run.
I can never sacrifice peace in my home.
Oh man, you took my answer.
That's okay. That's okay.
It's
okay.
never sacrifice peace. Do
Yeah.
not bother me. No.
Yeah.
Why is your peace so important?
Because your home is where you should be able to relax and enjoy yourself and not be, and like I told you, I was so laser focused. I was so high strung for so long. I need that peace. I need my solace. I need some time to just reflect. And so if I don't have that, then I'm still like a hamster on the wheel. I'm still in the rat race, and I need to be able to relax and have some peace.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that since that's my answer too. It got to be peace. It's hard to operate and have clarity and confusion. Yeah. So I can't have confusion in the house. And one of the things we tell couples when we're coaching them, once you step outside that door of your house, you know, you're going to get treated, kicked, jumped on, and everything else. But once I walk in those doors, I need to have some peace. Mm-hmm. And that's why, and I can't sacrifice that peace. So whatever issue we're having that might be causing us to have, you know what I'm saying, any type of hiccups between us, we need to go ahead and work that out. I got to have peace, because once I got peace, I can be right in my mind. And once I right in my mind, then I can start resolving other things and start to figure out what we need to do to proceed and move forward. So that I got to have and be happy. So I got to have that peace.
I like that. I appreciate that. And last but not least, what makes a house a home? Adinah? Love?
Yeah.
Don't try to steal my answer this time, sir.
You know, I would have to say, as far as what makes a house a home, I would say goodwill. As far as when somebody is doing something, you have to assume goodwill in what they're doing. So if I'm doing something, I don't need you to always go, I don't need you to go left, you know, thinking that, you know, I'm always doing something. Or if I say something, I don't need you to interpret it the wrong way. It needs to be goodwill. I recall early in our relationship, I sent Adinah some flowers to work. And I remember her telling me that one of her girlfriends at work was like, girl, what he did. I was like, what I did is send my wife some flowers.
Right.
Yeah.
But she processed it in a negative way. So she didn't assume goodwill in that. She didn't assume positive intent. And so what happened is that we need to always have that. I want that goodwill. You need to have that goodwill. So, you know, whatever you're doing, and when you have that goodwill, it gives you the freedom to fail also. You know, I tell people all the time, you'd be amazed what your spouse could do if they didn't fear any type of retribution if they failed in doing something. I could go down the road. I could tell you about all the stuff that I tried to do, like with failed businesses and stuff like that didn't pan out. Mm-hmm. But it was such goodwill. And we came from a place where Adinah knew that whatever I did wasn't best for me, it was what best for us. Mm-hmm. And so I had that freedom to fail. And unfortunately, a lot of spouses don't give their spouses that freedom.
Yeah, and they bring it up. Well, you remember when you tried that business and it didn't work? No, that's not okay. Don't do that.
Ooh-wee, Nick, you just took I literally woke up at 6 this morning thinking about not having the space to make mistakes in relationships.
Yeah, you got to be willing to.
You just took. Yeah. Wow, man.
Yeah, I tell couples all the time, it's all
right.
That
might need to be a whole nother episode, bro, because
yeah,
it does. He has an amazing story.
Yeah, I've done some things, but
we're gonna have to brainstorm on that episode. But I'll let you finish real quick.
Yeah, no, just that, you know, you really have to do that, and you know, we have so much as individuals, we have potential, but we fear the retribution that comes from failure, and we really have to be willing to do that. You never know, and if you look at all the successful people out there who are in relationships, those individuals were given the permission, space, and opportunity to fail. They didn't have to be concerned about, you know what, my spouse lighting into me or doing this way or doing that with me. It just, you know, it happened. Because
it ain't Kardashian said wasn't important.
They said it wasn't important?
Yeah, you mean keeping up with the Kardashians wasn't important?
No, you never.
And what the Real Housewives of Divorce Land said.
Yeah, no, that don't matter. You know, people always talking about trying to keep up with the Joneses and stuff like that, but at the same time, you don't know what's going on in the Joneses' house.
Yeah.
You don't know their finances. They might look good, but guess what? That car that they driving down the street in, they could be hiding it every night from the repo man. You don't know. Yeah, you know, so you really have to be willing to operate in a place where it's okay to fail and you can keep moving forward. And you know, this is a good thing about it. And you know, I'll be more than happy. We can definitely brainstorm on it. But you know, I can say I've probably had 2 or 3 restarts in the amount of time that me and Adinah has been together. But every time I failed, I learned something from it. And I was able to apply it to the next thing that we try to go into. You know, I'm okay in our relationship. We got the freedom to mess up. The thing is, we're like, okay, we only want to make that mistake one time. It's all right. Because if we make it more than once, I mean, we didn't learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do it one time. Then we go ahead and do get whatever lessons we can learn out of that and keep moving forward.
See, I was going to say, when you said one time, immediately the fear in me was like, but what if it happens again? But if the love is there, to lead with goodwill, the love is there to lead with goodwill. You have the space to work through it and learn from it the first time.
Yeah.
So
you know,
I understood it after I.
Yes, just the one time, because the thing is that we as individuals, we got to be willing to sit there and process it. Like, okay, well, how did I mess up on this? Okay.
I like that.
And as a couple, you can sit down and talk about it together. And I can go to you, and it's a good thing about it. If I fail, I'm like, hey, babe, this ain't work out. Let's come together. Let's put our brains together, figure out what happened here, so that we don't have to deal with it in the future.
And many times when you're grounded and connected, you already have that foresight to know this isn't working out, especially if you're involved. If you're involved with the business as well, you can understand, you can see it basically coming that it's not working out, and that you're ready to regroup with your partner, your spouse. You're ready to, you know, pick up the pieces and move forward.
Man, thank y'all so much. Well, before we get out of here, I did want y'all to give us your plugs and where we could find y'all and where the audience can find y'all.
You like to do it? Or
yeah, you got it.
Okay. Well, our primary platform at this particular point is YouTube. So it's Nik and Adinah. It's Nik and Adinah. That's Adinah. I'm sure the information will be down in the description of the video.
Yes, sir.
Also, you can catch us on our other socials. We tell people all the time, we do our best on Instagram, but we got followers there, but just don't give up on us because we're trying to figure out how to do it. I got a couple degrees in computers and I still don't really do Instagram like I should. But also want to definitely mention Adinah's book. And if you'd like to speak to that, honey.
Yeah, my book is on Amazon. It's Butterfly Blue. You'll see it right behind us as well.
Yes.
Butterfly Blue on Amazon. And I go through, it's so funny because when I was writing the book, a lot of people were saying, well, I never thought y'all had any issues. Y'all were perfect. And we were like, no, because I was very honest and I self-disclosed a lot in this book. And so I just kind of shared some of the things that we had to go through along our journey because it wasn't always easy, but we had that goodwill and we were ready to learn something new.
Yeah.
So would you say this book is a relationship coaching book?
No, this is my memoir.
It's a memoir. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pick
up the memoir.
Yeah. What's been, this came from is that we had been married for 10 years and we had gotten to the point where like, we like to expand our family. So we started trying to do that. But one thing we came to realization of that, it wasn't as easy as we thought it was going to be, so in that she kind of details our journey as we fought with infertility.
Yes.
And
so the actual title of the book is Butterfly Blue, The Pain of Infertility and the Power of Forgiveness.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll make sure I have that in the description as well.
Yeah.
And maybe even an Amazon link or
I got an Amazon link.
Yeah,
okay.
Do that. And I think one of the things that was important just to kind of call out in the book is that, infertility has derailed many relationships. But one of the things about it is that we were fortunate that we had the foundation to be able to weather that storm. It's a lot of people that go through infertility and they don't make it out, So
Right.
We're thankful that we had put in that work and had that foundation so that when we were faced with it, we were able to make it through.
Yeah. And we were able to give each other the space to grow and learn through the process.
Yeah, you make me think about the about M. Scott Peck. He says genuine love is wanting a person to grow spiritually, whether yourself or the other, and you have to allow them that space and to genuinely grow, regardless of the time frame there is. It's allowing that space that's the most important thing. Is how he would frame genuine love. And so it's beautiful that y'all, you had an understanding from the relationships you came from, and you had a dedication for this relationship to be much more fruitful. And not only did you have that dedication, but you've literally manifested it and watch it transform over times, whether it be peaks or valleys. And so it's beautiful to see people just working on the best in each other and themselves. So thank y'all so much for stopping by. Just before y'all get out of here, audience, we appreciate y'all for stopping by. I personally believe our relationships are foundations to our success, and a home with a good foundation provides for sustainable building. Like our homes need foundation and structure, so do our relationships. May that be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially, or physically. I hope you leave today with some foundation or structure to help you move forward. I'm your host, Didymus, and we are The Inquiring Mind. And we want to thank you. And before y'all get out of here, please go like, share, and comment. Also at anchor.fm, you can find The Inquiring Mind. On Spotify, you can find The Inquiring Mind, and Google Podcasts. Or go find me at Mr. T Hopes, or at Inquiring Mind as well on Instagram. Thank you all again. Adinah, Nick, any last words?
Nothing, but other than just, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to allowing us to, spend this time here with you, with your audience, and we look forward to doing it again.
Wonderful. Look forward to plenty more.